I'm Veronica Murphy. I'm Coordinator for Adult Faith Formation in the Archdiocese of Liverpool, and I've been a member of the Passing on the Faith Working Group since whenever, since its inception really, and it's been a great journey. I've really enjoyed it, and I think it's been very important really for the life of the church. I decided that I was going to be PowerPoint free for this workshop and give you a little breather in between probably lots of PowerPoints today. So I've just prepared a little pack, a little handout for you, and I'll kind of address some of what's there, and you can take the rest away and have a look at it. But it really is crucial at the beginning of my workshop to say that you need to understand the context in which we decided that we would offer a pilot around Partners in a Shared Task, because ours is certainly very different. Our Archbishop had just announced at the beginning of January 2010 that there would be a restoration of the order of the sacraments of initiation, so that instead of children being baptised and then making their first communion, sometimes with reconciliation before, sometimes after that, and then confirmation in the teenage years, the order was going to be baptism, confirmation, first communion, and that we were embarked on a journey together to look at how that would happen. And so we felt that, sorry, there's one more thing as well, and that the process whereby that preparation would take place would be through a process of family catechesis, taking seriously from Gaudium et Spes and other Vatican documents that parents are the first and most important teachers of their child in the ways of faith. And we asked, what would that really look like if we took it seriously? So we saw the opportunity to engage in the pilot as very important in terms of creating energy and opportunities for conversation around that journey to family catechesis, and this as an essential stepping stone on the way to that understanding. From the beginning, we had a collaborative planning group. So there were representatives from parish, representatives from diocesan structures, both school side and pastoral formation and marriage and family life side, and from parents and classroom teachers as well, all contributed to the planning of that. And we decided that because the Archdiocese is so diverse, that we actually had to go big, and so we offered 9 venues across the Archdiocese. They all followed the same process, and they were all on Saturday mornings, because when we talked about what was the most opportune time for everybody in the partnership, that was the best that we could come up with. And so you have a copy of the programme in your pack as well. One of the learnings that emerged for us was around the importance of personal invitation. Now, you know, I've been on the scene quite a long while, and from first being involved in adult formation, I remember people saying to me, personal invitation is so important. But sometimes we can kind of say that and trot it out a bit. But we really wanted to build that in, and build it in as an expectation down the line. So we provided parishes and schools who we were asking to be our partners in passing on invitations to people. We provided them with invitation cards and just asked them to personalise it, but most of the work was done for them. In your pack there's also the letter that we sent out with those invitations, giving the very simple background to that. It was surprising how many people arrived at the venues actually clutching their invitation. Maureen was at a number of them as one of the co-facilitators, and yeah, somehow that became really important to them. But we also stressed that it shouldn't be the only mechanism for inviting people, that parishes should include notice that it was happening in their bulletins and that anybody could come along, and also schools through their websites and any other communication channel they have should say, you know, if you want to join us, you're very, very welcome. So everybody's welcome was there as underpinned. But certainly the personal invitation was there. We also built in a half hour, which seems like a luxury, a half-hour period of hospitality and welcome at the beginning of the day. And again, that proved really important because people did arrive late, but they often arrived at 20 to 10 or quarter to 10, believing they were late, but actually discovering joy. They were early and they could have a cup of coffee and just ease into it. So we had very, very few late arrivals, but more importantly, there was a natural tone of being relaxed, of conversation from the beginning. If I were to say the core value that we sought to embody in the conversations, it was that of listening to one another. Andrew, you know, in inviting us into the process of this day, stressed it for us as a group here. But we took that very seriously. And so, in each small group, we provided someone who agreed to serve the process in the role of listener. And they were given, in hindsight, an inadequate briefing on the morning. One of the things that I would do differently if I were repeating this is that I would even more highly value that role, and I would somehow try to draw those who were going to exercise that role together in advance of the conversations and really talk through with them the way in which that role would be played out within the group. Because I think it was really the most crucial role and also the most demanding. And, you know, quite a few people really found it quite stressful, I think. But listening was planned for, and we saw it as being of real value. And therefore, I think parents and teachers and catechists felt that they had been heard and listened to well. And so each small group also had a facilitator. The kind of recommendation I would make around small groups is expect the unexpected on two counts. First of all, we planned for groups of between 8 and 10. And in every venue, without exception, we almost doubled our expected numbers. So we ended up with groups of 16, 17, 18, which was too big. And not a lot else at that stage that we could do about it. We planned for, across the 9 venues, 270 attendants, and we ended up with over 600 across the 9 venues. And that was fantastic, and it's wonderful to be overwhelmed in that way, but it's also a bit panic-making as well. So we were, from the beginning, in the mornings, in the presentation that we had, and copies of that can be made available, that's not a problem. But from the beginning, we used what had come through the working group and the Celebrating Family background, really rich material, to affirm parents, affirm schools, and affirm parish in the complementarity and the difference of their roles, and encourage them to talk about that. So there was real affirmation. I think over and again, what has come back from parents particularly is they had never had an opportunity for this kind of equal conversation before. Yes, good schools, lots of them, have been inviting parents in all kinds of different ways to have meaningful conversations. But it was the three-wayness of it, that there were lots of clergy attended. Again, you know, we were delighted. lots of parish catechists came and wanted to know. As I say, whether that is because there was this particular process of change beginning in the Archdiocese, probably. But whatever you've got going, you know, work with where the edge is what I'd say. Again, the small groups that we had, we allowed 40 minutes for the conversations. Because they were bigger groups, that wasn't long enough. But even with small groups of 6 to 8, because of the material that is being dealt with, I'd say allow much longer, an hour.